Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. Today I'm going to do a remake of a card I did a few years back. I did this card before I was videotaping, and someone had seen the card on my blog and asked me if I could please provide some instructions on how to make it. And I thought I didn't have anything written instruction-wise, and I thought writing it down might be just a bit tedious and confusing, so I decided to remake the card and shoot a video. And this is the card. I hope you can see it. It's a swing card, and it's really very nice. And I do have to make a sympathy card for someone, so I'm going to remake this card and change it up a little bit to be a sympathy card. So let's get started. What we need for supplies is a piece of Pacific Point cardstock, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Then we need a piece of Whisper White to go in the front, 4 by 5 1/4. We need a piece of Whisper White to be the swing card, the part of the inside, and this is 4 by 10 5/8. I'm not even going to pretend to know what the half of 10 5/8 is, so I just folded it in half and scored it. And then I need a piece of scrap Whisper White to stamp my other components. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Whisper White. I'm going to make the window out of this, but I want to make sure that I leave myself enough room for my sentiment. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment first. And for the sentiment and the inside of the card, I'm going to use this new Kindness and Compassion stamp set. And for the outside, I'm going to use our sincerest condolences. And the inside, I'm going to use sending comforting hugs and healing prayers. So sorry for your loss. So I'm going to bring that in. And with my Pacific Point, I'm going to ink up my sentiment. And I'm going to put that, I'm going to center it side to side and put it towards the bottom of my card. And like I said, the reason I'm doing that first is because I want to make sure I leave enough space for it. I would hate to make my whole card cut out the window and all that, and then not have enough room for my sentiment. So now I'm going to take this, and I have to make my window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some repositionable tape. It's very important that you use repositionable tape because you will have to take this apart in order to slip your swing in there. And if you use anything that's too strong of an adhesive, it will rip your card and you'd have to start all over. So I'm going to center that in. I'm going to press where I've put my adhesive, and I'm going to use from the stitched rectangles framelits. I absolutely love this set. It's new in the Occasions catalog, but I'm sure it's going to carry over into the annual catalog. You get so many different sizes of these stitched rectangles, and the stitching on them just makes it so nice. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to center it up here and run it through my Big Shot. Now, a couple things to remember. I'm going to open it up, obviously, so that I only cut the first layer. You are going through 2 pieces of cardstock, so you will have to go back and forth a couple times. So I'm going to go to the Big Shot, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my card, and you can see I haven't taken my framelit off yet. What I'd suggest you do when you do something like this is turn it over and just make sure that you've cut all the way through, and if you haven't, just go through it again. But I'm pretty sure I've got everything cut. So there you go. That came out beautifully. And I'm just going to take this apart. And I'm going to save that because I'm going to use that for another card. And now I have the basics of my window. And like I said, we are going to take this apart because we're going to have to put our swing in there. Okay. Because I used repositionable tape, I did not damage my card. And now I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to bring in my Whisper White. That's 4 by 10 5/8 scored in the half. And I'm going to make my scene on the outside. So for that, I'm going to bring in some Pierre Pizzazz, and I'm going to sponge my grass. I'm just going to go back and forth. Nothing fancy here. We're just making a little bit of grass and some sky. And I'm going probably a little less than a halfway up with the grass. I'm going to make my sky using Balmy Blue. Now, Balmy Blue can be a little dark, especially if your ink pad is freshly inked. So I'm going to sponge off once and then lightly come in because I don't want a really dark sky. I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to be mindful of where my crease is there because I do not want ink to go over, even though it's going to be taped and you won't see it. You still want a nice, neat card. Okay, so there's the inside. Now what I'm bring that paper back. Now what I'm going to do is stamp my scene back there, and I'm going to use the trees from Lovely as a Tree, and using Garden Green, I'm going to ink up my trees, and I'm going to stamp them right across here. I'm not going to stamp them too high because I don't want them to look like they're floating in the sky. I'm going to stamp them with their trunks in the grass. Okay, it's firm pressure, and there are my trees. And that's the background of my card. Now I need to attach this to my Pacific Point. I'm just going to use some snail for that. All four edges, all four sides, I should say. And I'm going to insert this in here. And I'm going to bring it up to the top. I'm not to the top. And I'm going to center it from side to side. Now, I don't want this to go right on top of that crease line because then it won't fold nicely. So if you can see, I'm putting it right under that crease line. Okay, and then just press down. And now my card folds nicely, okay? So as you can see, we're already beginning to see how this is going to work. Now I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap Whisper White and my Pierce mat because I'm using photopolymer. And I'm going to stamp my swing. I'm going to use some soft suede for my swing. Okay, and now I'm going to, also using soft suede, I'm going to stamp 2 pillows. And lastly, I'm going to stamp the tiny bird. And I'm also going to stamp him in soft suede. And now I'm going to do my coloring. For my swing, I'm going to use Crumb Cake Stampin' Write marker. And I'm just going to color the wood. I'm not going to color the strings on the swing. Now, when you're coloring this swing, I would suggest that you do not use your Stampin' Blends because they will bleed through your paper, and then when you open up your card, you'll be able to see that, and you don't want that. You can use perhaps thick Whisper White if you really want to use your blends. And see, this goes real quickly. And I'm going to color my cushion with Pool Party. And pillows, I'm going to color in So Saffron. And my little bird, I'm going to color with Real Red. Because you know what they say about the red birds in your yard. Okay, now to cut these out, let me explain. Many years ago, when this stamp set first came out, there was a gentleman, his name was Dave. He did not work for Stampin' Up. He used to make framelits that coordinated with Stampin' Up stamps that did not have, for which Stampin' Up did not provide or have a framelit. And he doesn't do that anymore for whatever reason. It needed to stop. So I, in the meantime, did have these framelits. So I'm going to cut mine out using the framelit. There's the bird, and there is the swing. The swing is easy enough to cut freehand, because obviously you can't get this anymore. If you don't already have it, then you're never going to get it. So you can use that. You can use cut it out freehand, and you can cut the bird out freehand as well. He's tiny. The little pillows coordinate with Stampin' Up's 3/4 inch circle punch. So I'm going to cut these out in the Big Shot, and I'll be right back. I am back with my die cut pieces, and now I'm just going to punch out again with the 3/4 inch circle punch. I'm going to punch out my pillows. And now I just have to assemble my card. So I'm going to bring this piece in, and the first thing I need to do is attach my swing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my silicone pad, because I'm always making a mess on my work surface. I'm going to put a little bit of snail right on the tops of these ropes. And then I'm going to attach it to my frame. Okay, and I'm going to check if there's anything sticking out, like this tiny little piece there. I'm just going to snip it off with my snips, and then I'm going to just erase any adhesive that is left. Okay, and now I just need to attach this to my card, my front of my card. And again, I'm going to use my snail, and I'm going to run the snail along the 4 edges of my card. And when I get to the top, because I'm using my silicone pad, it's okay, it's going to run over. Okay, and I'm not going to make a mess. I'm going to stand up to try to get this on, as I do want to try to line that rectangle up perfectly, because I don't want any blue showing on the outside of my card. Okay, and there we go. And again, with my adhesive remover, the best $5 you'll ever spend if you have one of these adhesive removers. Stampin' Up used to sell them, but they discontinued them. They retired them a while back ago, and you can get them at any of the big box stores. So there is our swing card. So now I have to attach my pillows, and for that I'm just going to use glue dots. You could use snail if you wanted as well. Put one there. Goodness, I have so much ink all over my fingers. And another one there, and then one final one for my little bird. Now for my bird, I want him to sit on the top of my my swing. So I have to make sure I put my glue dot towards the bottom of the bird, like on his feet. Okay, there we go. Now I have a piece of, I've already made my bow, I have a piece of Daffodil Delight seam binding, which again is discontinued, but you know me and my ribbon. If a color is current and the ribbon is retired, I still keep the ribbon. And I'm just sliding that on. And if you were going to make it yourself, you would just run it around the back of that. Okay, and there's the front of our card. Now I just have to stamp the inside of my card. And again, I'm going to use Pacific Point. Make sure I have that right. I've done it before. I finished my card, and I go put my sentiment in, and I stamp it upside down. And there we go. And the card is complete. And as you can see, it opens, when you open the top, the swing swings, which I think is just a great little touch. And then the nice background. It's a nice comforting background. So let me see. We'll look at the original one. And it's the only thing really that's different. I did the bow differently, and I put a dog, a sleeping dog, and I changed the sentiment. But other than that, the card's the same. And I thank you for that woman who emailed me and asked me for directions, because I did enjoy making this card again. So if you have any questions at all about this card or any of the products that I used, please contact me through my blog, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com, and I'll be happy to help you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.